Back when I was a teenager, I worked summers at a small family-run zoo just outside town. It wasn't glamorous. My job was mainly feeding the goats, hosing down the walkways, and hauling trash, but it paid, and for a kid it felt like an adventure. Everyone knew everyone else, and the animals were like coworkers. The old Jaguar house at the far end of the property was my least favorite place to be. The cages were old style, stone and iron with a weird damp smell. One late August evening, we were closing up. Most of the visitors were gone. There were just a few staff members still making rounds. Mark, one of the senior keepers, went to check the Jaguars. He did that round every night without fail. We'd usually see his flashlight bobbing as he walked back toward the break room, but that night, he didn't come back. Another keeper went looking for him, but he came running back, pale as paper, yelling for help. "The door's open," he kept shouting. We sprinted down to the Jaguar house. The gate to the enclosure was ajar, not wide, but just enough for a person to slip through. Inside, the cats were pacing, restless, and their tails twitching. Mark's flashlight lay on the ground just inside the gate, still on, beam pointed at nothing. But Mark was nowhere to be seen. We called his name, shined our lights everywhere. No drag marks, no blood, no torn uniform, nothing. The cats were agitated, but not bloody. It was like he'd been plucked out of the air. The police came, cordoned the area, searched for days. They even brought in the dogs, but still, nothing. 1 week later, one of the night guards swore he saw him. He said he caught a glimpse through the viewing glass. It was Mark, standing inside the enclosure at 3 in the morning, his eyes wide open and his hands gripping the bars. By the time he got someone else to look, Mark was gone. The zoo never reopened that exhibit. They said it was out of respect, but to this day, when I think of that heavy, damp smell in the Jaguar house, I get chills. Because sometimes, smell is the last trace of someone still hanging around. I used to work as an EMT, and one night we got a call from the city zoo. It was a female in distress after hours. When we arrived, the security led us into the reptile house. It was pitch black except for the emergency lights glowing faintly along the floor. They'd been running an after-hours tour for VIP guests. They got to see the behind-the-scenes, feeding time, the works. Apparently, one of the guests, a young woman, had slipped away from the group to get a closer look at one of the big constrictors. They found her near the back hallway on the floor. She was conscious but rigid. Her eyes were darting like a trapped animal. When we tried to talk to her, she whispered, "Don't let it touch me." We looked around, but there was nothing in the hall but dark glass and tanks. Then one of the guards pointed at the enclosure across from her. There, sliding slowly along the inside of the glass, was the snake. Only it wasn't moving like a snake. It was pressed along the glass from one end to the other. Its head was cocked at a strange angle. Its mouth was slightly open, but it wasn't striking, just watching. We got her out fast, practically carried her down the hall. Later, a zookeeper told me the snake's behavior was not normal at all. It had been calm for years. That night, it refused to eat, refused to retreat, stayed at the glass until dawn. The woman never came back for the rest of the tour. I still see her face sometimes, that mix of terror and certainty. She believed absolutely that if the glass cracked even a hair, it was over. And the weirdest thing? When we walked her out of the building, the snake followed, sliding along the glass until she was gone. My cousin did night maintenance at a major zoo in the Midwest. One winter, he was tasked with fixing a heating unit in the large indoor aviary. It was a huge glass dome with dozens of exotic birds. He had to do it after closing because they didn't want to disturb the guests. He went in alone just after midnight. The lights were dimmed, the birds quiet. As he worked his way up the catwalk to check the vents, he started hearing wings. Not the flutter of birds, but something heavier and slower. He noticed all the birds were silent, perched in their corners with their heads tucked down, like they were trying not to be seen. He felt the hair on his neck stand up. He looked down at the floor and saw it. A shadow moving across the tiles, long and spindly, like a person's but stretched. It slid along the ground, up the wall, then across the ceiling. He froze. His heart was pounding. The shadow moved past him and vanished into one of the dark corners. A second later, the overhead lights flickered back on and everything was normal. Birds started chirping again like nothing had happened. When he got out, he told this story to his supervisor. The guy just nodded and said, "Yeah, the night crew's seen it too. We don't go in there alone anymore." My cousin finished his shift, but he never volunteered for a night job at the aviary again. And now, when he tells the story, he always ends the same way. It wasn't a person. It wasn't an animal. It was something the birds already knew about.